In May 2010, off the coast of Vancouver Island, a 44-year-old man was treading freezing ocean water. His boat had drifted out with the incoming tide, and what started as a quick swim to retrieve it had turned into a fatal miscalculation. The ocean was colder than he realized. His muscles seized. As he clung to the side of the hull, his brain ordered his fingers to hold on, but he watched his hand simply stop responding, sliding off the slick fiberglass. He took one final deep breath before slipping under. Floating about 5 feet below the surface, the ocean was entirely silent. He drifted with the current, eyes open, watching the seaweed sway around him. In those quiet moments, he thought of his wife and 2 sons, and accepted that his life was over. He held his breath for what felt like minutes. Eventually, the burning in his chest became intolerable. His lungs demanded oxygen, and he made the conscious decision to finally open his mouth and inhale the salt water. This chart visualizes a timeline of physical reality, zooming infinitely into the microscopic gap between 2 moments. In normal human experience, time ticks forward linearly, but this man was about to encounter time dilation, a phenomenon where the perception of time stretches wildly out of proportion to reality. In the fraction of a second between deciding to open his mouth and the water actually rushing in, his consciousness would separate from his physical brain and experience an event that felt like it lasted for hours. He approached the water with the perspective of a combat veteran, a man who had spent 20 years in the United States Air Force, navigating mortality and high-stakes pressure. Over a 20-year career, he logged 1,500 combat hours as an aircrew member, initially flying on massive C-141 military transport aircraft like this one. He later transitioned to C-17s. On these missions, his aircraft came under direct attack multiple times by small arms fire, anti-aircraft artillery, and surface-to-air missiles. His flight paths cut through the active airspace of Kosovo, Iraq, and Afghanistan. He performed repatriation flights, carrying fallen soldiers home. By 2010, the toll was severe, a PTSD diagnosis, and a body surviving 11 major surgeries. Up to the moment he began to drown, his daily life was characterized by the constant management of chronic physical pain and traumatic memory. Back in the dark water, his mouth began to open. But before the salt water could flood his lungs, a jolt, best described as a blinding bolt of lightning, struck him. The physical world vanished. He was plunged into absolute blackness. He remained there for what felt like several minutes, yet he noticed something strange. His mind was perfectly clear. He could form complete thoughts and remain aware of his surroundings, despite the lack of a functioning body. Far off in the distance, a light appeared. He didn't move toward it. Rather, the light seemed to move and entirely envelop him. It was brighter than the sun, yet he could look directly into it. From it radiated an overwhelming love, a presence that offered zero judgment, only total acceptance. Then, against a pure white wall, thousands of camera bulbs started flashing all at once, like a stadium kickoff. In each flash was a vivid view of his life, playing out instantly from his time in the womb to a memory at age 2, right up to the present day. During this review, his consciousness and identity functioned with total clarity, operating entirely apart from his failing physical form. Immediately after the life review, he was projected out into the vastness of the cosmos. He possessed a 360-degree view of all surrounding universes simultaneously, a perspective that somehow felt completely natural to handle. Floating in this space, a profound realization hit him. For the first time in his adult life, the agonizing pain of 11 surgeries was gone. The heavy emotional weight of his military service disappeared. He was existing in a state of absolute relief. Here, he began communicating telepathically with a presence he understood to be the Creator. Asking questions and receiving instantaneous answers in a deep, warm tone, he understood a sense of universal architecture, that every grain of sand, every tree, and every human being is purposefully connected. This experience addressed more than his immediate drowning. It provided a total reprieve from decades of cumulative earthly suffering. He was then guided into a vibrant garden with pure white marble columns. People began to materialize, over 200 of them, including deceased friends and relatives. He felt a profound joy, a sense of finally arriving home. He wanted to stay, but realized he was being sent back. A blinding light flashed, and a jolt of energy propelled him upward. In an instant, his consciousness was thrust back into his frozen, paralyzed limbs at the surface of the Pacific Ocean. Reality rushed back in. He was still freezing. He still lacked the strength to pull himself onto the drifting boat. Believing he was about to drown, he steered himself toward the bow and tried to wrap a floating mooring rope around his arm, ensuring his family would at least have a body to bury. This chart maps the precise sonar readings taken the following day. He was treading in 20 feet of water, but as he prepared to go under, he kicked his right foot down and hit something completely solid. Standing perfectly vertical, exactly 5 feet below the surface, was a solitary rock column the diameter of a pie plate. It was the only object in a 50-foot radius. He planted his foot on it and pushed off to safety. The vastness of the afterlife stood in sharp contrast to the specific physical geometry of the rock column that kept him on Earth. He struggled onto the shore, shivering and coughing up seawater. He returned to a physically damaged body, but the psychological burden he had carried for years had been lifted. The fear of mortality had evaporated. He now looks forward to death, viewing it as a return to a place of pain-free, unconditional love. His day-to-day priorities shifted. He moved away from worrying about external perception and began to focus exclusively on how he makes other people feel. He dedicated his time on Earth helping fellow service members navigate their own injuries and PTSD. Today, he serves as the vice commander of an American Legion post. By writing grants, he established a Veterans Outreach Center that secures earned benefits, provides weekly hot meals, and runs a food bank for those in need. What happened in that dark water provided a clear perspective. The split-second journey into the cosmos revealed a peaceful eternity, while giving him a specific blueprint for how to spend the time he has left.